Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air. The high-stakes meetings at the White House. President Trump, President Zelenskyy, and key European leaders pushing for a ceasefire and a face-to-face meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy. And the state of emergency right now, Hurricane Erin barreling up the East Coast with life-threatening surf and dangerous rip currents. The new track and timing just in. First, that major push for peace in Ukraine. President Zelenskyy, backed by European leaders, rushing to the White House for urgent face-to-face meetings just days after President Trump's summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The leaders pushing for security guarantees to protect Ukraine and for an immediate ceasefire, something President Trump is backing away from after his meeting with Putin. Just hours before the talks in Washington, Russia launching more deadly attacks on Ukraine. And just in, Trump calling Putin after today's meetings, saying they are now beginning to arrange a meeting between the Russian president and President Zelenskyy. Rachel Scott is live at the White House. Ian Pannell standing by in Kyiv. Hurricane Erin sparking that state of emergency on the East Coast. Tropical storm watches just issued in North Carolina. Evacuations now underway. Florida all the way up to the Northeast, bracing for impacts. Dangerous rip currents and massive waves as high as 20 feet expected in some areas. Victor Akendo from the Outer Banks, where preparations are underway right now. Ginger Z timing out the storm. A major airline strike sparking travel chaos. 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants defy an order to return to work, crippling that nation's largest airline and impacting hundreds of thousands of travelers. The urgent investigation after 2 officers were killed in Utah, a deputy and his service dog wounded. What we're learning about the suspect. The news just coming in. The woman who authorities say sold actor Matthew Perry the drug that killed him, expected to plead guilty. The weight loss drug wars. One drug maker slashing the price of Wegovy and Ozempic. What's behind the move? And America Strong tonight. The Army veteran on a mission to spread smiles with a little help from his friends.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on a busy Monday night. I'm Mary Bruce in for David. And we begin tonight with the remarkable high-stakes show of diplomacy at the White House. 3 days after President Trump's summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy and Europe's top leaders rushing to the White House in their own effort to stop the war. This was the scene. President Trump welcoming Zelenskyy to the White House today. Their meeting far more constructive than Zelenskyy's last visit to the Oval Office, which spiraled into chaos. The president had been insisting on a ceasefire, but after meeting with Putin, he now says it's not a must before negotiating a peace deal. In an extraordinary moment, Zelenskyy standing shoulder to shoulder with President Trump and European allies, calling for security guarantees for Ukraine as a condition to ending the war. And late today, Trump calling Putin after today's meetings, saying they are beginning to arrange a meeting between the Russian president and President Zelenskyy. ABC's Rachel Scott leads us off at the White House.
Tonight at the White House, an extraordinary scene of diplomacy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and some of Europe's top leaders who had raced to Washington to back him up, meeting with President Trump in an effort to stop the war. From Trump, a warm welcome. Appearing pleased, Zelenskyy was wearing a suit this time.
President Trump, sir, your message to the people of Ukraine as world leaders gather here today.
In the Oval Office, both men seeming determined to avoid a repeat of their explosive clash 6 months ago.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you.
President Trump hoping today's meeting will lead to a trilateral meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
Zelenskyy insisting on security guarantees in case Russia invades again.
Security guarantees do you need from President Trump to be able to make a deal? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it?
Everything. It depends on the big countries, on the United States, on a lot of our friends.
Trump making this commitment.
We're going to make sure that if there's peace, the peace is going to stay long term. This is very long term. We're not talking about a 2-year peace and then we end up in this mess again.
Pledging American support.
When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
But on the question of an immediate ceasefire, the president unmoved. Heading to meet with Putin in Alaska, he called it a must.
I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today.
But Putin said no, and Trump backed down. Today, European leaders trying to change his mind. President Emmanuel Macron of France.
To ask for a truce or a ceasefire, at least to stop the killings, as we discussed, is a necessity. And we all support this idea.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz.
I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that and let's try to put pressure on Russia.
Trump unconvinced.
I like the concept of a ceasefire for one reason, because you'd stop killing people immediately, as opposed to in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it takes. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting.
The president confident Putin wants a deal. Earlier, live mic picking up this conversation between Trump and France's Macron.
I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand? I think as crazy as it sounds.
The president telling Zelenskyy and the allies he would soon call Putin to fill him in on the day's talks and discuss next steps.
And Rachel joins us now from the White House. And Rachel, we've just learned that call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin has now taken place. So what are you hearing?
Mary, the president posting on social media that he called President Putin to begin arrangements for a meeting. He says the first meeting that would take place would be between Putin and Zelenskyy, and that would be followed by another meeting that the president would then join. Still a lot of questions on when and where these meetings would take place, and of course whether these two leaders, Zelenskyy and Putin, can make an agreement for lasting peace. Mary?
We shall see. Rachel, thank you. Just hours before the talks in Washington, Russia launching more deadly attacks on Ukraine. Russian forces unleashing deadly drone assaults on civilians in Ukraine. At least 6 people killed, including a young child. The attacks underscoring Ukraine's calls for an immediate ceasefire. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell in Kyiv.
This is why Ukraine and European leaders are pushing for security guarantees against Russia tonight. President Trump saying Vladimir Putin wants peace, but this was Russia's deadly message ahead of that high-stakes meeting. Drone and missile attacks on major Ukrainian cities, killing at least 10 people and wounding dozens more. 5 drones striking this one residential complex far away from the battlefield in Ukraine's second-largest city, Kharkiv. It's become a grim routine. Emergency crews clawing through rubble, searching for survivors. At least 7 people killed, an entire family among the dead, including their 1-year-old daughter, Mia. She and her family lived on the top floor of the building. Their neighbor Hannah saying, "I saw the little one taking her first steps right in front of my windows. They were a beautiful family." Trump and European leaders discussing NATO-style security guarantees, potentially protecting Ukraine against further Russian attacks. But Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson calling any NATO contingent in Ukraine unacceptable. And despite all the talk of peace, tonight there is no ceasefire, with Russia's relentless attacks continuing.
Mary, despite the optimism at tonight's meeting, any deal to end this war does still appear to be far off. But after that show of unity, the ball does now seem to be back firmly in the Kremlin's court. Mary?
A deal far off and the attacks continuing. Ian, thank you. We do move on now to Hurricane Erin growing in size as it moves along the East Coast. States of emergency in the Carolinas. The first Atlantic hurricane of the season, now a Category 4 storm with winds up to 140 miles per hour. Possible waves up to 20 feet high. Evacuations underway in some areas. ABC's Victor Oquendo in the Outer Banks.
Tonight, after battering the Caribbean, a state of emergency in North Carolina. Coastal areas bracing for up to 20-foot waves as massive Hurricane Erin gained strength. Mandatory evacuation orders for the Outer Banks.
Here in Rodanthe, officials are urging everyone to evacuate. The main highway could flood or get washed out entirely, and they're also worried about these homes that are not protected by a dune and could get pummeled by the surf.
This video shows what could happen. This home left floating in the surf after Hurricane Ernesto slammed the area last August. Erin not expected to make landfall in the U.S., but as it rapidly intensified over the weekend, a glancing blow was enough to hammer St. Kitts and the Virgin Islands. And tens of thousands in Puerto Rico lost power. Hurricane hunters piercing the monster storm's eye wall, and those 160-mile-an-hour winds, the middle of the eye, a stunning sight. Now Erin, some 600 miles across, preparing to turn north, hugging the East Coast. Life-threatening rip currents from Florida to Maine. Lifeguards racing into the water in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. Officials say more than 50 people were rescued just today.
Mary, people in the Outer Banks are bracing for a rough few days, especially here in Rodanthe. Officials tell me these homes are very vulnerable. 11 of them have collapsed in the past. They're urging everyone to follow those evacuation orders. Mary?
Okay, Victor, thank you. So let's get right to ABC's chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, tracking the hurricane's every move. Ginger.
Yes, Mary, right now, Hurricane Erin is east of the southeastern Bahamas. It's moving northwest at 10. Eventually, it'll start to move to the north. And right now, the tropical storm force winds are more than 230 miles outside the center. We're going to see that expand even more, as tropical systems do as they move north. And that's why you have a tropical storm watch now up for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Also, a storm surge watch for up to 4 feet of water coming on shore. Remember, this is like a bulldozer pushing tons of water at the shore. And so from Wednesday night through Thursday, that's when we're going to get the closest clip with the storm. And why do we know that it's going to turn to the northeast? Well, we've got this ridge to the east that's weakening and that stationary front that's going to help eject it there right through that alley. Now, let's talk about the impacts, because up and down the coast, rip currents risk is going to be high, but it's all about the waves and the piling up of that water, the coastal erosion that comes on top of this. As that thing pulls away to the northeast, it's still going to be pushing water all the way up to Nantucket. But Wednesday, you see some of the highest totals there, 10 to 15 foot waves in coastal North Carolina, Rehoboth Beach, up to Nantucket, Rhode Island, New Jersey shore, up to 10 feet generally, and some places even higher, Mary.
As you've been warning, up to 20 feet in some areas. Hard to imagine. Ginger, thank you. Now to the airline strike grounding hundreds of flights across North America. 10,000 Air Canada flight attendants defying a second order demanding they return to work. The strike now stranding 130,000 passengers a day. ABC's Gio Benitez covers aviation.
Tonight, 10,000 flight attendants on strike grounding a major North American airline. Earlier today, Air Canada saying the Canada Industrial Relations Board has declared the strike unlawful, ordering their flight attendants to get back on the job. But the Canadian Union of Public Employees doubling down on their demands for better pay.
If it means folks like me going to jail, then so be it. If it means our union being fined, then so be it. We're looking for a solution here.
Air Canada forced to cancel hundreds of flights.
We are harming our customers, and over 500,000 to date.
Travelers frustrated.
They said that we have canceled all our flights.
Canadian officials say the country, already hit by President Trump's tariffs, cannot afford to take risks with the economy.
In a year where Canadian businesses and families have faced too much disruption and uncertainty, they shouldn't have to shoulder another blow.
And Mary, Air Canada says it is providing customers with a full refund, travel credit, or rebooking them on another airline. All flights will be canceled until at least tomorrow afternoon. Mary?
And Gio, we know you'll stay on this. Thank you. Tonight, authorities are investigating the deadly shooting of 2 police officers in Utah. The officers responding to a domestic disturbance call, the gunman suddenly opening fire moments after they arrived. Here's ABC's Erin Katersky.
Tonight, 2 Utah police officers are dead and another wounded, gunned down, responding to a domestic disturbance call, immediately taking fire.
We got 2 officers down.
The terror evident in police radio traffic.
Shots fired, I've been hit.
The first officer arrived last night at a home in Tremonton, north of Salt Lake City. Right away, officials say 33-year-old Ryan Bate emerged with a gun.
Upon arrival, they immediately began taking fire.
The first officer shot and killed. A second officer responding to assist, also fatally shot.
Still shooting.
Copy, still shooting.
Bate then allegedly fired into a sheriff's deputy's vehicle, injuring him and his police service dog.
2 officers down in the intersection, not moving. I'm hit.
Authorities say bystanders eventually convinced the suspect to put down his weapon, and he was taken into custody. Bate booked on 2 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of assault. And tonight, Sergeant Lee Sorensen and Officer Eric Estrada remembered as heroes. Domestic calls are volatile, Mary. Responding to them is one of the most dangerous things police officers do. Tonight, the injured deputy is out of the hospital. The suspect is being held without bond. Mary?
Just an awful scene. Erin, thank you. Tonight, the accused drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen has agreed to plead guilty to charges connected to the death of actor Matthew Perry. Prosecutors say she illegally sold him the drug, leading to his fatal overdose. The fifth and final plea in the case. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Nearly 2 years after the fatal overdose of Friends star Matthew Perry, the so-called Ketamine Queen is now expected to plead guilty for supplying him with the dose that ultimately killed him. According to court documents, accused drug dealer Jasveen Sangha offered Perry a sample of ketamine through a friend, and within weeks, 50 vials would follow. The actor had been open about his longtime struggle with addiction, speaking with our Diane Sawyer a year before his death.
Addiction, the big terrible thing, is far too powerful for anyone to defeat alone. But together, one day at a time, we can beat it down.
Yeah. Your disease is just outside, just doing one-arm push-ups, just waiting for you, waiting to get you alone.
Court documents show after Perry's death, Sangha tried to destroy evidence of her involvement, texting their mutual friend, "Delete all our messages." Sangha is the fifth and final person charged in Perry's overdose, all of them pleading guilty.
In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being.
Mary, Sangha was just weeks away from her trial, and she now admits, quote, "I'm pleading guilty because I am guilty of these charges." She faces up to 65 years in prison. Mary?
Okay, Trevor, thank you. And when we come back, the dramatic rescue. 4 young girls rescued from Lake Superior. Big price cuts for popular weight loss drugs. What's behind the move? Plus, Amtrak is warning of disruptions tonight after a major train derailment. The video coming in next. Next here tonight, Amtrak is warning a freight train derailment in North Carolina is impacting its services nationwide. More than 24 cars loaded with coal derailed this weekend outside Raleigh. The cars are blocking a line used for freight and passenger operations. And a dramatic rescue in Lake Superior. The Coast Guard saving 4 girls between the ages of 8 and 14, stranded on a rock while paddleboarding, using a helicopter to locate the girls, then hoisting all 4 from the rock and transporting them to their parents in a nearby field. And when we come back, big cuts to the price of some popular weight loss drugs. To the index now, drug maker Novo Nordisk is slashing prices for its popular weight loss drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. A month's supply of either drug is being offered for $499. That's half of the prior list price. Patients can order the drugs from Novo Nordisk or at participating pharmacies, the company hoping to compete with cheaper compounding pharmacies. And when we come back, the Army vet who's dedicated his life to spreading the love with a little help from his friends. Finally tonight, the Army veteran and his special mission. Tonight, one Army veteran is traveling the world on a mission to spread joy.
Oh, she heard me.
It all started when former Army helicopter pilot Kevin Boobles was deployed in Afghanistan. One member on the base always made him smile.
Our chaplain brought this little black lab named Zach along, and it was just incredible how this dog could bring people together.
So when Kevin returned to civilian life,
What are they doing here today?
Spreading smiles.
he was inspired to start a new beginning with his family.
Therapy dogs are for others. They help us spread joy and help people that are in stressful situations, and so we got Ellie.
Now Kevin and Ellie are on a mission to spread smiles. Little sister Emma, also a therapy dog, joining in their travels.
Could you hug Ellie?
And it's not just service members feeling the love.
You can come pet her. That's so nice.
Helping out at children's hospitals and easing the stress of these college students during finals week. And overseas, too, from London to the streets of Slovenia.
You guys smile. And we smile.
Their infectious smiles brightening everyone's day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And right here tonight, Kevin on their dedication to the mission.
Anytime you walk away from, say, the children's hospital and they're smiling, there's something powerful about that.
Proving why dogs are man's best friend. I'm Mary Bruce for David and all of us here. Good night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now,
ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the 3rd year in a row.